What if I told you that you could get into building without having to be a licensed GC, have any kind of construction experience? You don't have to know framing, plumbing, or foundation, and build homes like this for sale and make six-figure profits. In this video, I'm gonna show you the very basic steps on how you can get in this game and do the exact same thing I'm doing. Welcome to Ashley, lot number 2 and 3. We're building two $1.5 million spec homes on this 1.5 acre parcel, and we're gonna be selling it for multiple six figures of profit. My name is Ruben, I go by Ruben the Builder. Over the past few years, I've built over 240 homes and counting. Right now we have over 115 homes in the pipeline, and I'm gonna show you in 7 steps on how you could get into the new construction game with exactly like I mentioned, little to no experience, and even possibly with little to no money if you have investors that can fund your projects and you do profit splits with them. Okay, so for step number 1, whether you're gonna be raising capital, using your own capital, or partnering with different people on new builds like this to sell, you're going to need to find the land. When I'm looking for land, depending on the type of deal, the best type of land that I love is land that has been fully developed, all the utilities are there, and we're not necessarily in a rural area, because when you get rural, you don't have as many comparables to know full well when getting into the deal, how much your deal will sell for, how fast it will sell for based on historic data, and that makes going into a deal much, much safer. When you're looking for land, one of the very first things that you're gonna have to look for is utilities. When you find a piece of land and you see homes being built around and you see vacant parcels like this, you're gonna wanna contact the owner directly. Oftentimes it's not on the MLS. 80% of our deals have come actually off market. So let's go check out the utilities first, and I'll show you what those usually look like, and then we'll get into the financial section of the actual finding land part, and just to make sure that you have a good deal on your hands. If you've ever seen new construction homes just like this going up and thought, I wish I could do that someday, this is your chance to make it real. My team and I help beginners get into the real estate new development game step by step. So if you're ready to stop watching from the sidelines and see how this could be possible for you, click that link below to learn more from me and my team, and we'll make this dream become a reality for you. Okay, so one of the very first things you can do to find utilities is a free service called 811 Call Before You Dig. You call, you give the address. If you have a Google Maps screenshot, you can show where you want it marked. In this situation, you guys can see that blue spray paint was here and it was marked, and it shows the direction of where the water lines are and which way they go. But also in this situation, it's very easy because we literally have a metal cap that says water. So in this situation, we know 100% that we have water here, and we can move on to the potential next item for sewer. So we're gonna walk over. Either we would see green spray paint, and you can kind of faintly see back when we were doing due diligence, we found that there is sewer here. It's usually green. It says sewer CO. CO stands for clean out. We have water, we have sewer here. Now let's look for potentially storm, and then we'll look for natural gas if we need it, and electricity. So in this situation, because this was a developed lot, it's much easier to find utilities, but we have a massive cap here, it says S. We just have to make sure and find out, is this storm or is this sewer? Because they both start with an S. If we saw green spray paint coming to and from here, then we do know it is sewer. And as you can see, there is green spray paint here. It kind of lines up with that metal cap down there. This is sewer. So we now know that we still have water. We know we have sewer. We haven't confirmed storm yet, but let's go double check over here. Another way that we can check for water is look for water meter boxes with potentially no water meters installed. And so let's open up this water meter. Oh, it's fully filled with dirt, so we won't really know. We'll have to clean that out. But hey, that kind of stuff happens. We do have the blue spray paint, so I'm not necessarily concerned with sewer or water. Let's go find gas and electricity. Those are two important things. Okay, so as we walk down the property, we found this little area drain. So this is kind of like a landscape drain. This means that we definitely have a storm system somewhere on site here. This is where all the storm water would go. Storm is really If you have gutters in your area, downspouts, they get connected to the rain drains, and then the rain drain connects somewhere over here. And then if there was any kind of surface water, it would drain into here. Then all of this water that's collected from the house, from the roof, now goes somewhere. Okay, so if you walk further down the property, it has, you know, gravel and rock and different layers for it to infiltrate back into the ground. And then there's an overflow that if it was a massive storm and that water would fill up, it would go into the overflow and then into our rivers or whatever else. So that's our storm system. Now let's go into electricity. So when you're going for electricity, you want to look for power poles, transformers, or if your system is underground, then you'd see big green boxes, and then usually little green boxes around that. That's usually what I've seen nationwide. So in this situation, that's exactly what we have here. We have this big green transformer right here. So typically what it looks like is this green box takes in really high voltage, whether that be 480 plus volts, and then it transforms it down to usable power, usually 240, goes into this J box, and then from this J box, J stands for junction, this J box will run a conduit to the home where there will be an electrical meter and then electrical panel on the inside of that. So we have sewer, we have water, we have storm, we have electricity. The next step would be to look for natural gas if we need it, and telecommunications. So what is telecommunications? Well, it's going to be your phone lines, your internet cable, and those different kinds of things. Here we see it literally says telecommunications, broadband, so we know that we have internet if we need it and phone lines if we need it. We walked farther down and we found this yellow pipe, and it literally says buried tracer wire, locate station, Northwest Natural. This is our gas line if we needed to use it. A lot of houses nowadays are electric, you don't really need it. In this home, we're going to be doing all electric, and we're going to do gas appliances. So no main heat from the gas. It's going to be just a fireplace range, maybe outdoor fireplace, barbecue, things like that for the gas. So we'll run that lateral to the house. What I'd also like to share with you, and I think that it is pretty important. So here's a empty water meter box. The other one was filled with dirt. So that's what you can see, that's what it looks like. But we also have a yellow box that literally says gas. That's good. But something that you can use for yourself to find out if a property has utilities is often you'll have 2x4s sticking up out of the ground for new developments just like this. And this 2x4 is spray painted green. It literally goes down deep into the ground. Excavator can come in and start digging from this side and get to the exact pinpoint location of that sewer lateral. So oftentimes when developers come in and develop the actual property, they'll put these 2x4s in if it's a recent development for you to find your laterals as easily as possible. You'll have blue 2x4 for water, yellow for gas, often red for electricity, just so that you know. So that's going to be the very first step of finding land with utilities. The next section of step number 1 is going to be what can you pay for a piece of land? And it's really simple. When you're looking for land, you need to already know or plan what you're going to build on the piece of property. So in this case, we were planning to build 1.3 up to $1.5 million homes. And the rule of thumb that we're using for the purchase of these lots is the rule of 20. So we'll multiply that final resale value, the ARV or the ABV, after build value. ARV stands for after repair value. And then we'll multiply that by 20%, and that's the maximum that we can pay for the purchase price of the lot. I encourage you to pay less than 20% to make your deal sweeter, but that's just a rough rule of thumb just to understand, does the lot financially even closely, remotely make sense? Do I have utilities? Is this even feasible to move into underwriting, which is step number 2. The next step is called step 2, which is underwriting the deal and making sure. So at this point, you should have already found the piece of land, and now you're gonna go into detail and make sure that this is financially feasible to actually move forward on this deal. Okay, welcome to my concrete whiteboard. So we have that 20% number up here for the land. So we know that we can pay only 20% maximum of that final resale value. So we have to know what we're building on this piece of land before we can actually move forward and underwrite this deal. So since we have that 20% number and we have that final resale number here, so we know that, for example, we're gonna build a 5-bedroom, 3,500 square foot home with an office on a quarter-acre parcel, and it's gonna sell for $1.5 million. And we have our 20% number here. We now know the final resale value. We now know what we can pay for land. There's only one missing puzzle piece from this pro forma. Pro forma really just means how will this project perform. And so this middle number, this middle number is going to be construction cost. We know that we have utilities, so we want to factor in all the utility costs. If there is no water and it costs $10,000 to get the utilities, well then we need to subtract from this 20% number the cost of utilities. Let's just say, you know, the lot is $300,000 minus $10,000 to get water. We need to purchase the land at $290,000. In other words, the land needs to be fully ready to build on and have all utilities to break ground on construction. So that middle missing number is construction costs. The way that you do this is actually very simple. Let's say this house is 3,450 square feet. 3,450 square feet. We multiply that by $150 per square foot. That's the national average that builders are building at for a spec new construction home for sale. Now, this price can go down to $100 depending on your cost of labor. Material cost is generally mostly the same, or this price can go up to $250 if you're in expensive areas like Seattle, California, different areas where there might be more hurricane zones. But national average that I've seen building houses all over the nation, helping students build houses, is roughly $150 per square foot. Multiply that by 3,450 square feet for this home. You now have land price, you have the construction cost, and you have that final resale value. If you do the math on all these three numbers and you're left with a minimum 20% ROI, 20% profit margin, then the deal is good to move forward. Now, that's the basis of underwriting. You really want to make sure that you have a minimum 20%. On a more expensive home, like a $1.5 million home, I tend to aim for more 30% margin. And so when you run these numbers, if you're less than 20%, really you only have two areas, or actually you could address every one of these areas individually. So either you have to sell the house for more. I personally would like to be more conservative on that resale value just to be safe. Either you could build the house for less to increase that final 20% margin, or you could pay less for the land to make it 20% at the very bottom. Hopefully that makes sense. That's underwriting in a nutshell. Let's go into step number 3. Okay guys, so step 1 and 2 are going to be the most important out of everything that I've talked about. That's probably going to be, honestly, 70% of the work, because if you get step 1 and 2 right, the rest of this process is actually very, very simple. I could probably combine almost all the rest of the steps into like 1 or 2 steps. But we've created a 7-step process for you guys to make it very easy to understand. That way you have really clear checkpoints on the deal while you're doing new construction. So step number 3 is going to be plans and design. Really, the biggest thing that I would like to highlight here is when doing plans and design, you're really going to want to make sure that you use a building plan that has been built before. That way you're not second guessing and your room for error is much smaller. What I see some people do, and I think it's a really big mistake, is when they come in to build a house for sale and they draw up a custom plan, their numbers to build the home are wildly different than what they planned for, because they have extra beams, or they have steel in the house, or the walls don't align properly, and so the cost of construction can be a lot more. So when you're building a spec, reach out to a builder that you might be partnering with to do your project, and use a building plan that maybe they've used before, so that you can be 100% certain that your deal is going to pencil and that you can lock in the financing properly. Once you've drawn up your house plan, number 1, you're using a plan that you've used before, or that somebody else has used before that you're working with. The comps are there. You can safely move forward on the deal. The really good news here is that's all there is for step number 3. You're going to work with a drafter to draw up the plans. If you're reusing plans, you can use the same drafter to do it for your lot. The cost should be cheaper. the plans have been re-engineered before, so you can contact the engineer again. Usually there's an engineer stamp and phone number. Reach out to the engineer and just say, hey, I'm building the same plan that you've engineered before. Could you, re-engineer, re-stamp it for me for, at least half the cost or a quarter of the cost, because they've already ran the calculations for it. And then you're gonna reach back out to either the architect and he'll work with the lumber company, or you can reach out to the lumber company directly, get an I-joist floor layout, or if you're gonna do dimensional lumber, which is just regular 2x10, 2x8 wood, a layout for the floors, and then truss design. If you're gonna do manufactured truss, or if you're gonna do hand cut trusses, you'll need the drawings for that. Then the drafter will take all of those different documents together, the floor plans, the engineering, the joist layout, the trusses, put it all together in one big thick package like this, usually a PDF file. And then you'll move on to step number 4, which is permitting. And the only difference between step number 3, which is design, and step number 4 is literally this stamp. You want to see an approved and a stamp. And so what this will look like is, this will be often, depending on your local area or jurisdiction. In St. John's, Indiana, we got building permits over the counter in 1 day. Asheville, North Carolina is really fast as well. In Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington, we're getting permits in 90 days. Portland, Oregon, some places we've gotten building permits in 6 months. Other projects took us 1 year to get building permits. All of that is usually factored into the comps, the construction cost, and the land priced values, because if a builder's building, he's building to make a profit. And so you got to factor in those permitting timelines. And usually it's not really a surprise. It's just the project takes longer. Portland profit margins are higher because of that, because there's a much longer deal cycle. From Vancouver, Washington, USA, you can get building permits in 3 months. In Portland, it might take you a year, but Portland projects sell for more, and so it makes up for that permitting timeline. So once you go through that permitting process, really all it is you submit all of the full permit submittal package to the city. There's usually a checklist. You can type in your county, your state, residential new construction building permit checklist, and there's literally a full checklist. You need a site plan, floor plan, engineering set, trusses, floor layouts, storm system design, erosion control map. So they'll give you a full checklist. You complete that whole checklist, submit it to the city or the county or your local jurisdiction, and they're usually going to take, depending on how busy they are, 2 to sometimes 4, 6 weeks to get back to you. And they'll give you what's called red lines or corrections, or a check sheet. And they'll give you a whole list of problems that you have on your building plan. You then address those problems, whether it's to the drafter, to the engineer, or to the truss company, or to the site plan. You make all those different changes, resubmit as quickly as possible back to the city. You're going to go back and forth through this process on average 3 times. If you are not following the check sheet properly or all the corrections properly, it can take 6 to 8 times back and forth, and that's what probably makes up the 1 day permit process or the 12-month permit process, that back and forth. Your job is to really be a master coordinator and make sure that it gets into the right hands of the right people as fast as possible and back into your local jurisdiction as soon as possible to get that approval. You'll then get usually a pre-issuance email, which says your building permits are approved. You're now in pre-issuance status. Please pay the permit fee, and we will issue your building permits and you can start construction. Okay, so step 1 was finding the land. Step 2 was underwriting the deal. Step 3 was plans and design. Step 4 was getting those plans and designs approved and permitted. So that's permits. Step number 5 is where we're at right now, and we're gonna be doing financing. So once you've found the land, you have underwrote the deal, you have the plans in your hands, they're approved and ready to build, pre-issuance, you could call it. You now have everything you need to qualify to get a loan. During this step, you want to start talking to a builder, and that builder can typically provide you a budget for your building plans so that you can submit that to the lender. That's gonna be that last and final step. Really, what a budget is let's just say you're building for $150 per square foot. You multiply that by 3,450 square feet. That's your total construction budget. And now you're gonna grab that total number and break down an itemized list. So how much will excavation cost me? How much will foundation cost me? How much will framing, electrical, plumbing, so on and so forth cost me? And you're gonna break down an itemized list for that total construction budget number that you created in the underwriting section. And you're going to bring all of this to the lender. There's two types of loans really. There's going to be a 5% down owner builder loan. So that's typically it's going to be your primary residence. You're going to move in and live there. And then there's a second type of loan. It's usually an investment. It's based on the asset only, not on you personally as the guarantor. And that's going to be usually 15% down on the cost of construction plus the land cost. So you have that total down payment. You bring that down payment and they will fund the rest of the construction and build, including the land purchase. What they will usually do is they will get your approved building permits. They'll compare them to different new construction homes that have been built and sold, and they'll do an appraisal. So they'll run an appraisal and they'll predict the future value of the home, and then whatever that future value of the home is, they're gonna make sure that you're not over leveraged. Typically that's 80% loan to value, oftentimes 90% loan to cost ratio. So in other words, if the value of the home is 1 million, they're not going to give you a loan for more than 800,000, which is 80% loan to value, but they will give you up to 90% loan to cost. In other words, land plus construction, let's just say that's 200 plus 500, they'll give you up to 90% of the $700,000 construction cost to build, if that makes sense. I'm just making the numbers off the fly. So you have the appraisal, you have the budget. Loan terms typically look like for a personal residential new construction loan where it can be your primary residence, you can get that loan pretty much every year, 5% down if you wanted to. Typically it's half a point for origination, and it's usually 7% interest only during course of construction on what you draw. So if you have a $700,000 construction budget, but you only draw $100,000, you're only going to pay $700 during the course of construction, and that's usually divided by a year, and you divide that by 12 per month payments, and you can include those interest payments inside of your construction budget, which is really nice. For the private money, hard money, investment, asset-based loan, it's very similar, but usually closing points are higher. They're 1.1 point up, so 1.5, 2 points to close. In other words, if you have a $700,000 loan, you're going to pay 2% just to get the loan. That's usually the lender commission for them to fund you the loan. And then interest is typically 9 up to 12% interest. There's two types of investment asset-based loans. There's full Dutch and then there's non-Dutch. What does that mean? Well, full Dutch means they'll charge you full, let's just say 12% interest the day that you begin on the $700,000. Your payment never changes. And then there's non-Dutch, which is you pay as you go or pay as you draw. So you have a $700,000 balance available to you. If you only take $100,000 like a line of credit, you only pay interest on the $100,000. Non-Dutch asset-based loan is much better. Typically what I like to do is I like to build one personal house every 2 years. I sell it. You can sell it for up to $500,000 of tax-free profit if you've lived there for 2 years out of the last 5. Absolutely incredible. If you're married and filing jointly, if you're single, up to $250,000. So I usually do one personal house every 2 years, and then I'll get as many asset-based loans as I feel comfortable getting, depending on the appetite and the market conditions. There's no cap. You can do 2, you can do 100, you can do 200 if you have the investors and the capital and the bandwidth available to run a construction team to manage all the 100 homes. So that's step 5 for you in a nutshell. Let's get into step number 6, which in my opinion is actually the easiest one. Okay, so step number 6 is the construction phase. And the reason why I say it is one of the easiest steps is because truly in step number 6, what you are is an adult babysitter or a master coordinator. And what do I mean by that? Well, I don't mean it disrespectfully in any way, shape, or form, but what I mean is there's not enough lifetimes for me to learn how to do foundation, how to do framing myself, how to do electrical, HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, how to do plumbing. I can't learn all of those different things. When I talk to all of my different trades, I ask my foundation guy and he's like, I've been doing foundations for 17 years. I talked to my framer. I've been doing framing for 22 years. There's just no way that I can learn all of those trades. So what is my role as the property owner or the investor? It's really just hiring the right general contractor to manage all of the different subcontractors, or it's if I wanted to get my license and be my own GC, it'd be getting my own license to be a GC and manage the subcontractors and their schedule. And so I'm just making sure that I can stack the schedule properly and efficiently so that I can get the project done in a timely manner. That's step number 6, completely in a whole. You don't need much time. I would definitely say one of my biggest lessons and biggest recommendations for somebody that has never maybe managed construction before is specifically in the new construction game, you never want to pay any kind of deposit and you never want to pay any kind of finances ahead of time. The reason being is because everything in new construction goes really quickly and it's very predictable. In other words, foundation starts, they'll be done in a week. They don't need a deposit or cash up front to complete it. And what you want to do is, start the foundation, finish it, pour it, strip it, and once it's fully complete, past all inspections, then you can call the bank inspector. They will verify that the job is complete and they can release the foundation funds to you, and then you can pay the subcontractor. And that's very normal in the game. It's really just simply called net 14, net 30-day agreements. In other words, there is a time that the subcontractor waits to get paid, and that way you have full certainty that the job will get complete, and then you also have a peace of mind that that they'll finish the job until they get paid because they're motivated. And so it works from both sides. It's very normal in the construction game. I know it's not very normal in any remodel games or anything like that, and oftentimes you hear the contractor horror stories, and that's literally because of that. So in this game, don't pay until the job is complete. It's the safest way to ensure that your project is done in a timely manner. Guys, that is step number 6 in a whole. Don't overthink it. Step number 1 and 2 are so much more important than step number 6. Let's get into step number 7, and it's definitely even probably easier than step number 6, but maybe a little bit more stressful. Let me get into why. If you want to find out exactly how real estate developers find, fund, and profit from real estate development projects just like this, we'll show you exactly how it's done. My team and I, we've helped dozens of students with little to no experience get into the real estate development game for the very first time, and we have a few spots opening up this very week. So if you're serious about getting started, click that link below. We can either help you build your very first house, or if you've built a few before, we'll teach you how to scale to 10 plus homes just like we've done in our construction and investment business. Step number 7 is going to be putting this home, well, this home right behind me, up for sale. Now, why did I say that this step might be a little bit stressful? Well, you've done everything that you could do, and now it's really just a waiting game. In this step, when you're selling the property and you're posting it for sale, really, you want to make sure of a few things. Number 1, you're not overpricing the property because that's not going to get you showings. You want people to look at the house, get feedback for the home, and then potentially get offers and counter offers and work through those different things. You want to make sure that you have a real estate agent that is very skilled in the new construction game, because it's a little bit different than just selling houses. There's going to be repair addendums to work through. Sure, they do have those on regular homes, but you want to make sure that you have a specialist so that you have that negotiating power. There's been multiple times in soft markets, not great markets, where I've gotten over asking offers because of my agent and their negotiation skills, and then being able to work on the repair addendum and different things that you have to fix on the home, which really saves you a lot of time, headache, and energy, and sometimes even money. So when you're selling the home, you just have to sit tight, wait, have a good real estate agent, make sure that you're priced properly and aggressively. Sometimes if you wait too long and you're priced too high, that's not really good for your listing history. So that's gonna be really important for step number 7, guys. And with that, you're gonna wrap up this entire project, cash your check, and you decide what you wanna do with it. Either go on to the next project, bigger and better things, or take that profit and go travel the world. I don't know, totally up to you. Thank you so much for watching. Guys, I would really appreciate it if you like, share, and subscribe, and comment below. It would mean a lot to me. It helps our channel, helps us post videos just like this and bring more content to you. I'd love your honest feedback as well. We're always trying to improve our videos, and people have many times commented, and I've made videos based on those comments, based on the feedback that I got from you guys. So really appreciate all of you. Much love. Thank you so much. Peace out.